When thinking about risk, artificial intelligence, security, and education, we try to examine if we're safe in society, if our rights are protected in society, if our children are safe in schools, if they're being educated in schools, if we're all existing in a place where there are common rules and there are common expectations for everybody who's a member of our society to follow. And in this world where so much of the information that we get comes from memes with just maybe one line of text, from a tweet, from an 8-second vertical video clip, from everything that an algorithm generates into your feed, I want to take a minute and look back in its entirety to a document that probably everybody read in school. And if you didn't read it in school, I'd wonder what that school's teaching. So this document is from July 4th, 1776. The Unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station in which the law of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinion of mankind requires that they should declare the cause which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its power in such form as to them shall seem more likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed, which dictate the governments long established, should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath soon that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotisms, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government, to provide new guards for future security, such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter the former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injustice and usurpations, all having a direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has abused the assent of laws, and the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public record, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasion on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such disillusions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative power, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for the purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriation of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary power. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their office and for the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislature. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretend legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial, for punishment for any murder which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by a jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretend offenses, for abolishing our free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging our boundaries as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rights into these colonies, for taking away our charter, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the form of our government, for suspending our own legislature and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicted government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, isolation, tyranny, already become the circumstances of cruelty and purge scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, to fall themselves by their hands. He has incited domestic insurrections amongst us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, who know rule of warfare is in undistinguished destruction of all ages, sex, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of free people. Nor have we been wanting in attention to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them that the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and humanity. We have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connection and correspondence. We have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that the United Colonies are, and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved of all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connections between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, we have the power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts or things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we will mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. This document is signed by dozens of representatives from the original 13 colonies, including Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and Samuel Adams. Thank you for taking a few minutes to listen to that.